I had never meant to wander that far from the road, nor to lose the last traces of sunlight among the twisted roots in silent woods that had grown wild over the years. My journey was not meant to take me into forgotten corners, but curiosity has a way of pulling me into places I should not linger. The path that led me there was narrow, nearly swallowed by moss and tangled undergrowth, and when I broke through the last curtain of branches, I stood at the edge of something I thought had long ago been erased from the world. A graveyard, silent and smothered beneath centuries of neglect.
The air felt colder there, as if shadows had made a home among the leaning stones and broken iron crosses. Most markers were no more than lumps of rock covered in lichen, their inscriptions dissolved into illegibility. Trees had thrust their roots through tombs and cracked the earth beneath, and everything smelled faintly of damp rot. And yet, despite its abandonment, the place felt aware of me, as though unseen eyes watched from behind the crooked monuments.
I walked slowly between the graves, my boots crunching against brittle leaves. Something compelled me onward, a presence I could not name, until my gaze fell upon the impossible, a patch of freshly disturbed earth. The soil was dark and loose, as though dug within the last few days, though everything around it spoke of centuries of silence. I froze, my breath catching in my chest. The ground was uneven, the mound of soil roughly piled, as if whoever had dug here had worked in haste. A crude wooden cross, newly hammered together from splintered planks, marked the spot. Its wood was pale and unweathered, jarring against the blackened stones nearby.
I could not look away. What hand would bother to bury something in a place abandoned by time? Who would choose to disturb the rest of forgotten bones? And why here, in the middle of a graveyard, no map acknowledged? The silence deepened as I stepped closer. The birds had stopped singing, and even the wind seemed reluctant to cross into that hollow ground. I knelt by the mound, my fingers brushing over the damp soil. It crumbled easily, still loose, still soft, and beneath it, I felt the outline of something hard. For a moment, I almost dug further, but then a sensation crawled over me, a warning I could not ignore. The shadows lengthened, though the sun had not yet vanished, and I found myself trembling without knowing why.
Night came quickly, swallowing the sky in a tide of black clouds. I had intended to leave, but my steps faltered, as though the cemetery itself refused to let me go. Every path I took wound me back to the same mound of earth, as if the ground beneath shifted to lead me there. I told myself it was nonsense, a trick of disorientation. Yet each time I arrived again at the fresh grave, my dread deepened. That night, I made the mistake of staying. I had no torch, no real shelter, only the graveyard and the trees surrounding it like walls. I sat against a leaning stone, watching the fresh mound from the corner of my eye, waiting for nothing, and yet expecting something.
The first sound came at midnight, a soft scraping, muffled, like claws raking against wood from beneath the earth. My blood turned cold. The noise continued, rhythmic, insistent, until at last it stopped. I could not breathe. Then the soil shifted. I saw it with my own eyes.
the mound heaving ever so slightly, as though something beneath sought to rise. I ran. I stumbled through graves and roots, tearing my hands on brambles, and yet somehow the forest twisted me back into the clearing again. The mound awaited me, undisturbed now, as though mocking my fear. I dared not sleep, but exhaustion overcame me. My dreams were filled with images of pale hands clawing their way out of the soil, of eyeless faces pressing against the wooden coffin lid. Each time I woke, my eyes darted to the grave, but it remained still, silent, as if waiting for me to believe it had been a dream.
By the second day, hunger gnawed at me, but worse than hunger was the sense of being observed. Not by animals, not by living men, but by something older, patient, concealed in the cracks of this forsaken place. I tried once more to flee, choosing random directions, marking trees with my knife. No matter how far I walked, the forest circled me back. The graveyard had become a prison. That night, the scraping returned, louder now. I sat frozen, my hands clamped over my ears, yet the sound bored through me. Then came the hollow thuds, like fists striking wood, frantic and desperate. The ground quivered, soil slid from the mound as if pushed from beneath.
On the third night, the coffin broke. I heard it splinter, the sharp crack echoing beneath the soil. My mind screamed at me to flee, but my body was rooted. The mound erupted. A hand, pale as moonlight and slick with dirt, burst through the ground. Fingers curled, claw-like, reaching for air after centuries of suffocation. I staggered backward, tripping over a broken stone. The earth opened wider, soil cascading down as a figure dragged itself free. It was not flesh as I knew it, nor bone alone, but something in between, preserved by forces I did not dare to name. Hollow eye sockets locked on mine. No mouth opened, but I felt the weight of its hunger all the same. It rose fully, its limbs jerking as though unused to motion, its chest rising in soundless breaths. And still, it stared at me. I do not remember drawing my knife, only that I held it before me like a shield. But the thing made no move to attack. Instead, it lifted one trembling hand and pointed toward the woods. Slowly, deliberately, it turned its head toward the rest of the graveyard. I followed its gaze and saw other mounds stirring. So many. The earth rippled with movement, graves long forgotten convulsing as their inhabitants sought release. Cracks split open across the ground, wood snapping, soil heaving. The silence of centuries shattered with the sound of the dead reclaiming breath. I ran once more, but this time I felt the forest allow me passage, as though the prisoner I had witnessed had distracted its watchful gaze. Branches parted, roots no longer tangled at my feet. Behind me rose the sound of countless hands clawing free, of the cemetery awakening. I broke into the open road just before dawn, collapsing onto the dirt path. The world outside was unchanged, indifferent, but I carried the weight of what I had seen in every trembling muscle. I never returned to that place, though in dreams it follows me still. Sometimes, when the night is very quiet, I hear again the scraping, the hollow thud, the sound of soil shifting
where no man should dig. And I know that the graveyard is no longer forgotten. Something was freed the night I trespassed, and its hunger will not be satisfied with earth alone. I pray never to see that fresh soil again, but I cannot rid myself of the thought that somewhere, even now, the ground is moving.